the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Nimesh Patel.
Nimesh Patel.
What's up, dude?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here, man.
First of all, you were so flattering telling me that this was your first podcast. So thank you, man. I appreciate you taking
Feels
the time.
special, dude.
Speaking of special moments, special nights, I was super bummed I couldn't go out to your first headlining out at Rose City.
On Rose City, yeah.
Yeah, how was it, man?
You know what? That was it was a learning experience. It was my first time headlining.
How much time was it?
I was trying to push myself to do 30.
Yeah.
I've done like 25 before, and I've like flirted with like 27. So I was like, I figured I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time you do anything, you're kind of always nervous. Do I have it? You know, but I did do 30. The crowd wasn't our cup of tea. Yeah, I think you run the risk going to Tyler with a group of youngins. You know.
You know, I've been out there once.
Yeah.
But I absolutely loved it because it's such a small spot that you don't know who's buying the tickets, and it sells out fast.
Yeah.
And so
that was my experience the first time I went with Casey Coleman, and I did 15 for him, and the crowd was on fire. Like, it was amazing set. They called me back. This time around, I think they liked 5 jokes the whole night from all the comics. But I told my wife the one thing I learned was like I can do 30 minutes and just power through. That was like the ultimate takeaway from that whole night.
That was the first full 30-minute set.
First full 30 I've done. Yeah.
How's that feel now that you got like
it feels
under
good.
your belt?
Yeah,
you know?
it feels, and it's one of those things like you want it more, but that's like the hardest thing to get to find 20 plus minutes of stage time at a certain time. You know, it's one of the hardest things to do.
And like, how much of your time do you think you really love? Where you're like, I love this. It's dialed in.
No, I feel like it's honestly the joke that I love the most is the one that I don't even feel comfortable putting in all the time. I think everything for me is like, I like them all, but I'm like, it could be better. Everything could be better.
Sure.
And that might just be like a me thing where it's.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this now?
Probably, I'm approaching 3 years.
Okay.
This stint. So I actually started in college where I was really half-assing it. You know, like I wasn't really putting my whole effort into it. I was like distracted by so many other things at that age. And the scene, like at 21, going into comedy clubs, it's like a very intimidating thing. At least it was to me.
Yeah. I'll say even just as a guest, when I first went to a comedy club, like not performing, just a guest, it was intimidating.
Yeah, what do you do? Do I do I put my phone away?
Am I dressed nice enough? Do I have will they kick me out?
Yeah.
I've seen this in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after the first one, you're like, oh, this is really cool. Okay, okay. Yeah. No, I was asking about your time because I was just really confused because the times I had seen you, you have this mix where you seem very natural on stage. Like you feel very confident when I'm watching you, right? It feels like you're having a good time up there. Yeah. So if you are nervous, you're hiding it well.
Yeah.
And but every time I've seen you, I see you trying different stuff.
Yeah.
So I was having a hard time pegging down, like, man, is he like 1 year in, 5 years in? Like, where are we at? You know?
Right.
So but that sounds about right. You're about 2-3 years in, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm approaching 3 years.
That's exciting,
I
man.
think it's like it's very intentional where I'm like, I want to try new stuff. Like I really want to try. I have so much stuff that I want to try. I just don't have the stage time to really try and perfect it. So honestly, it's like when I get 15 minutes, I'm always throwing in at least new tags, at the very least, if not new bits altogether.
Yeah. Like I said, I was bummed I didn't get to go to Tyler to see you stretch
You
your
would
legs
have been
a
the
little.
one person laughing there. I could have used you out there.
I wish I could, man. It's just I love everything about that club, except it's about 2 hours away.
Yeah,
right.
It's a nice. It's a really nice spot.
I love it.
They continue to add to it. Like they're really doing something special.
Well, I haven't gotten out there since they've done that remodel, so I want to see that too.
They got a whole lobby now.
I know, man.
They got a lobby.
You know, I was real fortunate. The owner, Chris, he talked to me. I don't know if he goes by Chris or Christopher. I can't remember now. But
he goes by Shy.
Huh? Shy.
He goes by Shy. Yeah.
No, that's not it, is it?
Yeah. Christopher, aka Shy.
Oh, I didn't know that. He never told me that. Well, now I feel like I don't know him at all. He like told me a little bit of his, you know, how he started and then like his long-term plans. And then I got to talk to Jason McAdam, who is like his right-hand man up there. And they're making moves, man. I like it.
Special.
I like it. But because I think the last time I got to watch you was I went to the backdoor open mic that I hadn't been to in forever.
Oh yeah,
and that's
I
one
love
of
the backdoor open mic.
Well, I love that little club, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't get to get over there as much as I used to, and I hadn't been to an open mic in probably 2 years over there.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't go to open mics that often.
Oh no, I like going to the open mics, man, because you just never know.
You love the game though. That's why you have a passion for comedy.
But you know what it is like as a comic, especially. You know, when you're at an open mic, it's like the vibes at open mics from those crowds are strange.
Yeah,
they're strange, man.
Yeah.
And so when there's like a genuine laugh, not like an uncomfortable laugh, like that, and that comic really earned it, like they won that laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel so proud for them. You're just like, damn, that was a good joke, and you know it was good because this crowd hated everyone tonight.
And they really, you have an opportunity to change the room for the rest of the comics on the list just by doing that. And it's like we're all rooting for everybody to like, come on.
And like, I don't know his full name. I'm still learning some of these new people that you know, the scene's got a whole new group, which is also
a new wave.
But that's also part of the reason to go to the open mics is to see like who's going to power through and make it this time, you know, next year, 2 years from now. But the guy, I think he was hosting Backdoor that night, Waldo, yeah, I love Waldo. Well, that was my first time seeing him, you know, and so it's like part of the reason I love those open mics is I can watch 20, 30 people. Yeah. Whereas if I go to a show, it's maybe 5, 6 people. Yeah. So to me, it's kind of like volume. And
how do you judge it? Now that not that you're judging comics, but when you go watch an open mic, you only have snippets of time, so you can't really tell if someone's doing new stuff or if their old stuff is not working. And obviously the crowd matters too. But how do you come out of that situation feeling like you know who you like and what energy you like? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'll give people, you know, 2-3 watches before I really make any opinion. Yeah. Because I mean, everybody's got bad nights and everybody's got nights that go better than expected, right? Yeah. Like, I don't want to say it's undeserving, but sometimes like you get lucky and that crowd just sinks with you.
Even they're surprised, like, oh,
shit, yeah. But what I can tell now, and I'm still learning a lot, so you know, I'm still picking up on all this. To me, I feel like I can tell like a sense of preparedness, and then a sense of how serious are they taking this moment, right? Because I think I can tell pretty closely, like one sentence in, if you are, like, if this is a little hobby and you get up here to screw around and have a good time, and that's fine. Yeah. You know, open mics can have that too. Right. Or if it's somebody who's like working on a joke. Right. And you can feel that difference. There's a confidence when they get on that stage of like, I wrote this down today, 2 days ago, a week ago, and I came here to practice this, to work on it. So I feel like immediately you can feel that, you know, and there's little cues, right? Like you can tell who's got a little stage time just by how they grab that mic. Do they put the stand somewhere? Do they like to, and there's no like right or wrong. It's just, you can tell things that are intentional.
It's crazy how that works. There's a lot of unspoken things, but like,
does the chord weird you out that it's wrapped up a certain way?
The energy and stage presence that, you know, but before someone even talks, you can figure out if that person's like going to be good or not, or if you get excited a little bit. And like, I don't know, that piece of comedy is so fascinating to me. Yeah. That's crazy.
And so I feel like I'm picking up on a lot of those cues. And then I can tell, I don't know. Okay, 3 years now, and this is like your second stint kind of doing it. So really a little more than that. You know kind of the standards that new comics, new open micers talk about, right? They immediately go to like restroom, dick jokes. Like it goes that route fast, which is its own little anomaly of like, why, how does everybody go to that first?
It's comfort, you know?
Right? Yeah. And so, you know, you can see people starting with those, and it's like, at this point, I think I've been to enough open mics where you see a lot of similar themes. So you're like, okay, this is probably not going to be anything that original. Yeah. Again, not a problem if you're sorting it out, but I can just tell like, you're probably still working on it. Yeah. And then I can tell when somebody's got like a good premise. Yeah. It's weird. It's different. I haven't heard this.
Something challenging.
Even if they don't get a laugh, I'm just like, well, that's interesting.
They're pushing limits.
Yeah. You know? And you're like, and that's why I like the open mic, because I'll see somebody, you know, like, that was an interesting topic. They didn't get a single laugh here, but I see what they're kind of going for. And then maybe 6 months later, I'll see them somewhere again. Yeah. And it's like, oh, wow, they worked that around a little better. Yeah. And so you see, it's like those bold people. They're not too concerned about doing incredibly well at the open mic. They're concerned about like working on that bit. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I see now, but it's still difficult because you don't know, man. It's like, it's such a unique thing of what makes a joke funny and work.
Right.
You know?
The club matters, the audience, everything matters for that joke to kind of click right. But that's the thing, to get a joke to work everywhere, and that's the goal, right?
Well, hearing me say all that, how do you approach an open mic usually? Like, what's your kind of strategy? Because, you know, you're married. It's like, I'm assuming you're working. It's like time is valuable.
Yeah.
So how do you decide, like, okay, I'm going to hit this open mic? What makes you want to do that?
A lot of it, I mean, you're right. Like, I've tried to find balance, like with open mics and life and family too, because I have to, you know. I commit Tuesdays or Mondays to like not doing comedy at all. I'll write a little bit here and there, but like that's something that I'll spend time with my wife. Like that's our day together. Other than that, then I still try to hit 2 or 3 a night. But like to your point, I'm trying to be better at being more prepared for a mic. I think you have to be good at practicing, because that's all we're doing right now. Like until you become like, you know, a headliner and you're at clubs and you got people paying to watch you. You're practicing. You're really practicing. Even when you're made it, you're still practicing at those opportunities. So it's like you just got to get better at practicing, which means going into which open mic you're going to. I know which 3 I'm gonna do, or I have 4 that I'm gonna pick. I have 4 bits that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do these 3. Like going into that, it makes such a world of difference versus, let me just go up there. And I try that sometimes. I've tried it. I'm like, I trust me to figure it out on stage.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it doesn't work out that way. A lot of it's like you have to write the material and trust yourself, and then take it on stage and practice it. And that's when you get more efficient 5-minute, 3-minute open mic times, you know?
So I've been curious, like, people at your time in, right? 3 years in, like, you know, you're capable of making people laugh now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've been on enough shows.
So,
You've been on enough shows.
Yeah.
You have gotten laughs, and your peers continue to book you.
Yeah.
So you know there's something there, right?
Yeah.
How do you, like, when you go to these open mics now, I've always wondered how someone at your stage trusts whether that is funny by that audience. Like, do you trust when you're getting a laugh from these open mic crowds, like, okay, that was definitely a win? Or do you think like, that was an easy audience, or that was a hard audience? How do you feel when you step off that stage, whether you like get the laughs or don't get the laughs?
I think when I don't get the laughs, I still trust my premise. Like I believe what I'm saying is funny. And I think that's something that all of us comics should like lean into. You know, you thought of this at one point in your head and thought that was hilarious enough for you to go up in front of, you know, potentially 50 people and say it out loud. So I think you ride that as much as you can until you're like, all right, I guess I'll just take it out of the rotation for right now.
So it's not the premise; it's that you haven't worked it yet.
Yeah, I haven't worked it yet, and I think there's like this. You have to be able to connect what you say in your head. Like the joke starts in your head, then you write it down, and then you got to say it out loud. Like all 3 of those things got to be put together and like aligned for it to like work on stage. So you can have this great joke in your head, but like people give up on it. It's like, oh, I've tried it a couple times, it's not working, and then they don't like go back to it. Try it. Maybe you need to say it better. You know, maybe maybe your confidence needs to match the jokes. You know, the jokes level of humor or whatever it is. Like maybe that's what you need.
Yeah, I don't want to drop any names, but there's a comic that I really admire, and I feel like we're good friends. And I'll talk to them about that, where they feel like they're still trying to find their voice. Like they feel like the material is strong, but they haven't found even who they are to deliver it correctly. Where it's honest from them.
Yeah,
is how they
that's one of the hardest things to do. And like, I mean, I know like other comics will, when you first start, will say, write, just keep writing, write. That's what you got to write and get on stage, which is true. But like, if you make the intentional effort to be like, all right, I'm gonna go up there and just be confident on, like, work on stage presence and work on being yourself and like finding the balance of this joke is really not for the audience. I like to do this joke. I want to do it this way, and use the stage time for yourself. I think the moment you start cracking that code, it becomes easier. But I you know, even comics that I talk to, I'm like, man, just work a little bit. You're gonna keep writing. You're gonna do that, but you need to find your voice. And that might be the more important thing. People find that 7 years in, 8 years in, 10, some people never find it. And I'm like, take the effort to maybe work on that a little bit more.
Well, I was fortunate enough to work with Lawrence Rosales on filming his comedy thing.
Yeah.
And, he's
congratulations on that.
Oh,
thing
thank you
was
so
sick,
much.
dude.
Thank you. Yeah. He's 10 years in.
Yeah.
And the conversations we have, he still feels like I'm right at the beginning.
Right.
And it feels like it's a never-ending thing.
Yeah,
and then
a good thing.
it's like I'll hear Ralph Barbosa on some of these podcasts talk about like, I'm new to this game. I'm learning. And it definitely seems like that craft that just the education never stops, right?
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, it's that's why I like talking about it, because you always learn something from somebody. Like it is all about just being better, like getting better. I just want to get better.
Well, talking about you were talking about I like the premise, but I need to work it out.
Yeah.
Can you think of what was the longest you held on to a premise, but you were wrong? There was no working it out.
Man.
It was just a bad premise.
All right.
What do you think was the longest you worked at it before you had to admit, okay, it's not me, it's the premise, it's bad?
I haven't given up on this one. All right. I still work on this to this day.
Yeah.
I have about like 7 minutes on nipples.
Okay. How long have you been working on that though?
Since it's one of the first jokes that I had.
So close to 3 years?
Close to 3 years. And it's gone through many different iterations of it. And so I have enough to be like, all right, if I need to kill time, I'll just talk about nipples for about 7 to 8 minutes. That'll get from 10 minutes to almost 20 minutes. That's a big chunk of time that I really can. But I think part of this is now just like, all right, I got to cut some of this stuff out. And to what we're talking about, like, sometimes I just trust myself to find the funny when I talk about it, as opposed to, all right, now I got to combine it with the before, which is write some good stuff and make it fun. But I always have fun making people feel uncomfortable. Like it's fun for me, so I keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I think I can make it funnier, and I'm not giving up on it until it's like people are like, "Damn, man, that was funny, bro."
Did you ever? Do you watch Rick and Morty ever?
A few episodes. Yeah.
They have a great episode. The whole thing, they go to all these weird different planets and stuff. And one of the planets, the racism on the planet was because of their nipples. Have you seen that
funny.
one?
No, that's hilarious.
So one group of people had like small spiky nipples, and the other group of people had spiral nipples.
Yeah.
And when they start fighting, they're like ripping off their shirts, and and they're like, "You spiral nippled freak," and like, and it's just there's some topics they're just funny and silly.
Weird. And the nipples are funny because, like, to this day, it's one thing that we don't talk about. Free the nipple movement. Like, where did that go?
And they're real weird, right? Yeah. Because it's something that, like, okay, it's like if you're talking about genitalia on men and women, those parts are different.
They are.
So it's easy to be a little confused and a little weirded out, right?
Yeah.
But nipples, everybody's got a nipple, and everybody we all know this, and it's like. Even as dudes, it's like you get to a certain age, right? Like where, when you're 15 and you see somebody topless, you're like, oh my God, this is life-changing, right? But then as like a grown man, you're like, she's topless, cool. And it's not like it's always going to be cool, but it's not shocking.
Right.
Right? And but it still is like a taboo. The nipple.
The nipple makes it taboo. The nipple makes all of it taboo.
Dude, the fact that like I could bring my shirt over all the way to the nipple if I'm a woman, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's totally fine. But if that were to just go another
quarter
quarter inch,
more, we're in trouble.
We're in big trouble. And it's like, people are like, she's a slut.
Yeah.
She's a whore. She's disgracing everyone.
And the weird thing is, I can show my nipples wherever I want to show my
Anywhere
nipples.
you want.
And it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, nipples are weird.
They're strange. Yeah. And, I have a 4-year-old.
Okay.
And, it's like, I remember probably, I don't know, he was maybe like 2 or 3. And it's like, you take your shirt off in the house or something. And he's looking at your nipples.
Yeah.
And he's like, he hasn't connected the dots on these things yet. And then he's like, he looks at you and he looks at himself and he's like, kind of like, oh, okay, you got these too.
Right. Yeah. A learning moment. Yeah.
And you realize like, oh, that is a little different, And he's like, why do we have these? And it's like, man, that's
the $1 million question.
Yeah. I mean, because at one point, genetics didn't decide if we were male or female. I can't get into this, man. Let's watch Bluey. Like,
yeah. So I have 7 minutes on that stuff.
Well, I will say nipple jokes are probably a step above like dick jokes. So
just a step. Barely a step. Barely a step.
But even you succumbed to like the weird body stuff. Why do you think most people start there? Because every open mic I've gone, if I watch 30 people at an open mic, 20 of them had either a dick or a vagina joke.
I don't know. I feel like something about it feels like the easy way to get it. Like it can be hack, but I think it's one of the easiest ways to get a laugh, and that's what people are looking for up there.
Yeah.
They're up there to get people to laugh, as opposed to saying what they want to say in a funny way, and so the dick jokes and
it's weird, right?
All of it just comes out.
Yeah, because I'll judge it really hard. I'll be like, here we go. But then every now and then I'll see a professional throw out like a really good one.
Yeah,
and it's just childish, immature, and I'm like, yeah, it is still pretty funny.
It's still funny though. But that's the beauty. Like when you have a good set, like when a pro goes up there and what to expect from them, and they're giving you new material, and then all of a sudden they throw in a dick joke. It's like it's like a palate cleanser almost.
Yeah, and like, especially with your greats, like your very intelligent comics, it's like it's nice to be reminded every now and then, like, this is a smart person, but they're also an idiot.
That's
and
a
this
good
is
point.
just fun. It's just, we're doing silly things up here.
Yeah. We're back to being childish, which is nice. I mean, there's funny thing about childish humor, and it just shows that I'm on your level still. Don't worry. We'll talk about dicks and tits.
Don't worry. We'll get there. We'll get there, man. Yeah, it's interesting. That's why I like the open mics. And my wife thinks I'm insane for going to watch those.
Which one is your favorite open mic to go to?
Tough question, man. They've all got their character.
Yeah.
I think one of the more consistently well-run, like organized, like I know I'm going to see a good amount of people who take it seriously.
Yeah.
Right now is probably DCC.
For sure. Yeah.
I think that they've got good people running their mics. I think they value like the time of everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go, usually they're working through a list, and people are up there trying things. And then it feels like, I know there's like scene politics no matter where you go. And a lot of it's probably even unintentional. You're buddies with these people. Yeah, I'll put you on the list.
Yeah.
But it feels like they still get a good chunk of newcomers in there.
They do. I think it's the mic that everyone tries to get. Everyone's trying to go to the DCC mic, whether they make it on the list or not, but everyone's trying to do it.
I mean, the rooms have these feelings to them, right? And currently, whatever they're doing, that one feels fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm having a good time when I go there. People are happy to be there.
I agree.
Whereas, there's a certain one, I'm not going to, since it's negative, I'm not going to tell the name, obviously, but people in the scene already know. But it's like, there's one that's really close, like almost walking distance for me.
Yeah.
And that open mic, I don't know when the last time I went, because it's like you went into it, and I don't know what it was that sucked the life out of it, but it just felt so negative.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like draining. And it seemed like a lot of the good comics were deciding to not practice on things there because it was getting a little too weird and strange. And I don't know what causes that.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, that room it just wasn't fun at that moment anymore. So I was like, well, I'm going to stay out of this one for a minute and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I've always enjoyed DCC. When did you ever do the Fort Worth, the Twilight Lounge open mic that Mana did?
I have yet to go out to Fort Worth to do any comedy.
Unfortunately, that venue closed.
Okay.
It was like a bar that did music and then comedy, and Mana does a bunch of stuff in Fort Worth, so she was kind of running her domain over there. But that open mic I always really liked. It had the same kind of fun vibe.
Yeah.
Like the people that were there was a good group of friends, but there was also a good mix of brand new people. And I mean, the new people were terrible. They sucked. But they were having a good time.
The energy in the room made it fun for everybody.
And it's like they knew they were terrible, and they could be silly and laugh about it, and people would give them, the woos and stuff to give them some confidence. And it's like, you're terrible, but you got up here. That's cool.
Did it.
Yeah, come get a drink. You're one of the, you did this now.
Yeah.
And which is more than me. I've never done a comedy open mic.
Yeah.
So anybody who does terrible on that open mic stage is more of a comic than I'll ever be right now, And so it felt like there was just this good mutual respect that people were there to like try stuff and work on stuff.
Yeah.
And those two rooms I think do it great. The backdoor one's always solid.
I love backdoor.
And they're just, from what I hear from the comics, they are very like they want to foster the people. They want to foster talent if they can.
Yeah.
It seems crazy, but I like that they have their rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
our way or the highway, at least until you're somebody.
I know people don't like it, but I think it's good to make you sweat a little bit.
Honestly, it's
and
not
try
hard.
some stuff.
It's not hard. You're asking for 3 minutes of PG-13 material.
Come on,
you can do it.
Yeah,
there's no reason why
I still prefer dirty comedy.
Yeah,
but why not have that skill set?
You should have it. You can always and it's a good way to practice taking your dirt, your stuff, and try to find a way to make it clean if you could, so
Yeah.
you can use it everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a good room over there. It doesn't take a room full of people to make it fun. You just need a couple people, a couple audience members, and you can get really productive, 3 minutes out of it if you're doing open mic there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place. I was just telling my wife, I was like, there's something about Backdoor that just like, that's the energy that I have on stage. That's what I'm trying to accomplish everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But something about Backdoor just brings it out of me. I don't know what it is.
It's the right amount of gritty.
Yeah.
And it's run well enough, but you can tell it's run by artists so that it's not too serious, not too like there is more love for art than business.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
And that's definitely no small part to Linda, and then rest in peace Jan, who was running that too. And then I think the veterans that really hold that place dearly are kind of being stewards of that now, doing the same thing where it's like, hey, this is again, not being a performer. This is what I see from the outside, right? But it seems like the people who have been there a long time, they look at it as like, hey, this is an art form. Yeah. This is a craft. We take this seriously. And so if you're going to come in here, let's all take it seriously, and we can help you. But if you're not, then maybe this isn't a good spot for you.
Yeah.
There's
something about performing at that club that really brings out the best in you, and you know who you're working with.
Yeah.
It's a special place.
I want all the clubs to do well, but I want that to be like, I wonder how you can make that club extremely successful.
I know.
Without ruining what it has right now.
I agree.
Because it feels so good. It's like you don't want to like clean it up and add too much shine to it, because then it loses its kind of, clubs should feel like a little gritty, and it's just the right amount of dim.
Right.
The stage lighting isn't over the top.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no, there's something. You got to keep it. You got to keep the essence of it.
And I say that, but I also love DCC's new remodel. I think that main stage looks beautiful.
I love it so much.
And it's the total opposite of Backdoor.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just want both of those clubs to do well in the scene and be a mutual thing that everybody can benefit from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are probably my two favorite. And then if I just get to random, bar open mics every now and then, you just never know. Like some of the local producers do a good job.
They do.
They're like kind of the unsung heroes. Like they take so much shit.
I mean, every comic that produces a show, runs a mic, I mean, they're doing it for everyone else. Like it's a grind. It's a commitment for them to be, 3 hours every week over here. And they're doing 5 minutes of time. They're not even using that as an opportunity for them to practice extended minutes, maybe a little bit, but not even like a lot like that. So they're really just doing it for everybody else. And that's, it's appreciated.
That's been the hardest part with this show is, similar to you, it's like I got a wife, I got a kid, I've got a job. Yeah. And like I want to see so many of these things that these people are doing. Because there's a lot of independent shows happening right now that appear to be high quality. I haven't got to experience them yet, but they look like they're going good. And I see the names that are going out there to perform. And I'm like, okay, if these people are going, it must be pretty solid. Yeah. And it's just hard, to make it out to like, okay, this spot at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday.
There's so much to do outside of just hobbies.
What a great problem to have. It's like, which show am I going to go watch now? But yeah, it's what with your obligations and stuff, how would you decide, kind of in the beginning and up to this point, like how do you decide, okay, I think this is, for lack of a better phrase, like worth my time. Like this is going to be worth the energy I'm putting in to go do these shows that are not club shows. Yeah. What makes you kind of decide, I'm doing that one?
The show, I mean, honestly, the show's really, if I have some free, I will say yes to almost anything if I have the time to do it. I just want the stage time. I'll do I'll do bar shows, bar mics, club shows, comic produce. I'll do it anywhere. I just have to really balance the life outside of comic, because I do believe in burnout. Like, I think if you go too hard into this, like, I'm trying to do this for the rest of my life, whatever it looks like 20 years down the road, I want to be able to do it 20 years down the road. I'm not trying to, do it every weekend and burn myself out. And I got family, dude. Like, I love hanging out with them too. I love hanging out with my wife and my friends. Like, it's a sacrifice that I have to make. Sometimes I see comics every weekend they're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm like, man, that makes me jealous. I wish I could do that. But I'm also like, well, I'm here and I'm funny the way that I am because I got this life that I live outside of comedy, which which I know for a fact is going to help me do this for a long time.
Broader experiences. Yeah. Even there are like greats that I love, and when I hear them start on like airport material, you can tell it's like, oh man, you just did comedy for like 2 years straight with no breaks, because it's like, it's not your fault that you were living in an airport.
You're just traveling.
Yeah, but it's like, you can tell it's like they pulled that material because that was their life. You know, and did your wife? How long have y'all been married?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
Did she know about comedy before you got married? Did she know you were gonna like dip back into it?
No, it was actually. I thought I was done. Like I for real, I was like, it had been like 9 years, 10 years at this point since I had done stand up before, you know, and it was literally my wife's brother was getting married, and they for part of his wedding festivities, I think before their marriage. Him and his wife, they had a roast and toast. They wanted to do a roast and toast with like their closest friends. And
what a bold move.
I know, yeah, bold move. And they asked me to host it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can do that. And we drive down there, and it's a really nice party. It's about like 30 of their like good friends, maybe 40. And it's just us, you know, there's no none of our parents are there. It's just us. And I was just ripping it, dude. I was having such a good time. I was making fun of everybody. It was such a great event. And I did that, and I was like, I think that was in November. And then I was like, okay, January of next year, I'm going to go back to a mic. And then it was a
little bit of a New Year's resolution
combined
with that wedding.
And then I didn't stop after that. Like I just, now I just keep going. Yeah.
Had she seen you do any performance before that wedding?
So when I was in college, I'm not sure. Do you know Osama Siddiqui?
Yes.
The Dallas comic moved back to New York.
Yeah.
Him and I would host like MC.
I saw him when he was doing improv at DCH.
Yeah,
he was in a friend of mine's improv group back then.
Hilarious dude. And he was kind of doing everything here too. He was doing stand up. I think he took some acting classes. He was doing improv, kind of building the full.
But to the point of going like watching the new people, I don't know how developed he was in stand up at that point. Like I don't know how long he'd been doing it, because I wasn't doing any of this at that time. It was a long time ago. And I remember seeing him like super nervous about improv, which is interesting. You see him now, he's appears very confident.
He's a killer.
Yeah, and so it's like I wasn't observing anybody like that then, but thinking back now, it was like, wow, look at how much that guy grew in a very short amount of time just from hustling. Yeah. You know, and but anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were talking about.
Yeah. We would MC, like there'd be like, you know, Indian dance competitions, like where different colleges would come out, and they'd go like SMU and things like that. But me and Osama would often I think we hosted like 3 or 4 of them while we were in college, and I think a little bit outside of college. And I think my wife was like running some of those shows. Like she was a part of the production team, you know? So she would see me on stage. I don't know if it was the best material
she got a little taste.
Yeah. She knew that I liked attention at that point. At the very least, she understood that.
Yeah. I mean, she must really like if she saw all that and was like, sure, this is the guy.
Well, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I think she might have enjoyed the fact that I quit.
Yeah,
and it's like I like this person a little bit better.
How did she take it when you were like, I think I'm jumping back in? Was she like, go for it, or like, oh, interesting?
Yeah, I think that day at the roast and toast, I think she saw like my eyes light up with how fun it was and how excited it was from her. And she was like, you need to go, just go do it.
That's awesome.
And so part of it is like, she would be like, yeah, go ahead, do every night if you want. But part of that's like, I got to respect her time here too. And, you know, find the balance between doing something that I want to do all the time versus spending the time with the person I want to all the time. Yeah. And merge both worlds into one.
That's been one of the hardest changes for me to make, you know, as like a husband. Yeah. Is realizing, you know, even though you can work this in, like, even though, you know, like you can fit it in the hours in a day, it's like you have to say no to things.
You have to say no to things.
You know, and it's so hard. But when you see, and I'm still working at it, like it's still difficult. I still have to remind myself, or she has to remind me, like, no, you're doing too much.
I say it'll still come with those moments where there's probably something that, but I want to do, but it's like, no, don't do that. Yeah. Like, I think those moments will happen continuously.
And she'll never tell me no. Right. You know, she's not like that. But you do see where, like, if you take that break and spend the time, how much better the relationship is. Yeah. And then when you do go actually do something, it's like a weight off your shoulder. You don't feel like, oh, I've neglected this other thing for this, you know.
And I was talking
but it's been tough.
I was talking to Lawrence, actually. I think it was like at Backdoor one of the weekends, and even he was like, the mic, the mic that you're going to miss it. You know, like, go ahead, don't worry about it. The show that you said no to, it's not a big deal. You'll get it again. Like, but you have a wife and a family. Like, spend time with them. Don't take that for granted. And I was like, that's the way I'm trying to do it.
You know, and you can trust his advice, right? He's been down a couple different roads, so he can give you some real experience there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that happens when you're like hungry for anything. You think that every missed moment was going to be the moment.
Right.
And it's like, no, nobody's.
And
it's more about the consistency of doing things, you know?
Taking advantage, like then back to what we were talking about before, going into an open mic, like, this is what I'm going to work on, as opposed to just going up there and shooting the shit, you know? You got to take advantage of every minute that you have.
Yeah.
Make it intentional. Today, maybe you're like, you're working on the same jokes, but today I'm working on my stage presence. Today I'm going to work on the crowd work. Today I'm going to work on making eye contact with the crowd. Like, just do something where you leave that, even if it's a horrible crowd, because most of the time it's going to be a bad crowd at open mic, but take something away from it and then apply that to to shows. It makes going to shows so much easier when you're at an open mic doing two things at once. I'm doing my set. I'm also thinking about, I should do this, I should do this. And then you go to a show and you're putting things together. Like, it just makes the show feel at least a lot smoother than it probably comes off, or than it feels. Yeah.
Do y'all have any kids yet?
No, we're expecting.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you'll see it, you know, when the kid comes.
Yeah.
And then you probably have seen it already, just going from being single to married.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I look back now on my younger self who thought he was busy and thought he had to manage his time. Yeah. And now you're thinking, like, if only I knew. If only I knew how much free time I had when I thought I had no free time.
Yeah.
Because now I think about how much I'm able to get done in this small amount of time. And it's, you know, it's an immaturity thing, right?
For sure.
But it's like, now I think, like, oh my gosh, the amount of work I can get done in 3 hours now versus what I would get done in 3 hours then.
Child turn you
by
to a
just
machine.
Focusing, by just going, like, I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to work specifically on this. We're going to get those things done.
Right.
And I mean, that's a skill in itself. It's just time management. It's like, it's not about hitting, 10 open mics. It's about what did you do with that 5, the 5 open mics you could make? Did you take it? I guess that's kind of what I was speaking about earlier, is like, you can see the maturity of some comics as a fan the moment they hit that stage, that it's like, I'm here with this in mind. I got a purpose. I don't have time to waste.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a little bit of what I pick up on is they're coming in there focused. Maybe that's a better way to describe it.
Right. Yeah.
Now that you said what you said.
You have their attention and they have yours. Like, it's reciprocated both ways. I'm here for you. You know, you're catching me doing something that I'm working at right now.
Yeah.
As opposed to, this is just like a hang. I'm here. I'm gonna do my 3 minutes and go back out and go for a hang.
When you go to a place like Backdoor, it's like, obviously there's a lot of comics watching, but there's a lot of random people in the crowd. Yeah. Do you, like, I know I'm going to an open mic to watch you practice. Do you feel like most of the crowds know that y'all are working on things, or do they think they're coming to a show?
No, I
still can't judge that.
I still think they're coming to, I don't think most people understand what an open mic is. You can tell them it's an open mic, but they forget about it when it's like, yeah, you're going to watch stand-up comedy. They just see it's stand-up comedy. And they're going to watch people and they're expecting you to be good, Right. I think a lot of times they're expecting you to be good, like, oh, this guy sucks. This, what is this that I'm watching? I feel like they're even again, talking to it's so nice to have my wife, because she's not a comic. She's a regular person, and she gives me regular person advice, and she sees shows being produced and open mics being produced and tells me this is what a regular person probably thinks of what's happening right now. And I think there is great advice. There is she tells me that people don't know what that education needs to happen. This is what an open mic is. Because even some friends of mine, they're like, I want to come watch you. You doing anything on Wednesday? And I'm like, I'm going to open mic. And they're like, perfect, I'll roll through. I'm like, no. No, don't do that. You're going to sit there for hours, miserable. Don't do that. They don't know what it really means.
Yeah. before the pandemic, I had a small group of people. We were like this comedy watching group.
Yeah.
So we would just pick like a monthly show, and that was our show we're going to go to.
That's cool.
And our goal was to build it, and then the pandemic kind of shot it down.
Yeah.
And but I have these dreams of rebuilding it, where instead of going to the monthly shows, we hit like a monthly open mic.
Yeah, that's easier to do.
Well, and I just thought how much fun it would be. Like I thought about going crazy, like cheese ball with it, like matching shirts and like have a name for the group, so that like if you're on an open mic, and like I was like, man, if we could have like a meetup where we like hop on like a old school bus or something, and we pull up to the open mic and just load in with 40 people.
Wow.
Matching shirts.
That'd be sick.
And we're like rowdy and like ready to watch, like, let's go. And
you
like
would make every comics night.
That's what I'm saying.
They've showed up.
Like, but like, don't tell people where we're going. It's like, I want to randomly show up, and then just, because then it takes away the excuse of the crowd, right?
Right.
Like if we're comedy fans and we're like, we have a positive, like, go for it.
Right.
You know, we're cheering you on when you're nervous, and you get a sense of like, you know, is it the material or is it the crowd?
You'd be doing God's work
if
you were doing that, Travis.
But it's gonna take a key group of people.
Yeah.
That I mean, you just got to find real comedy fans, and they're out there. I think they don't know that these open mics exist, right? You kind of got to be in this world a little bit to know. Yeah. But I just thought, man, even just 10 to 20 people just showing up, and just the right amount of rowdy where you're not heckling, but people are like, did you feel that? And these new comics who never feel that kind of energy ever,
right?
You know, they go a year through open mics without anything being like super happy.
Being miserable and depressed.
I mean, when you don't have your jokes down, this is just my observation. You know, I've seen people who struggle to get that 5 minutes going.
Yeah.
But they're hitting those open mics trying.
Right.
But you feel that defeat coming in because they just haven't got that big pop.
Yeah.
They haven't got that one laugh yet to show them like you're capable of doing it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I thought, you know, if we get a good group and randomly show up and somebody gets that win, hopefully it shows them like, all right, you can get something.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just these beat down crowds who, I mean, some of those open mics, dude, they make you work for it so hard.
Yeah.
I love watching the crowd. I'm analyzing the crowd of like, they didn't give them that laugh. That was pretty smart.
I know, and people are texting, people are talking. Like it's a battle out there.
The open mic I saw you at Backdoor.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember who was.
Do you know around what time that was? Yeah.
No, it all blends.
Yeah.
I just remember the host.
Was it Waldo? It wasn't Waldo?
No, I think it might have been. Is it John Moore? Maybe hosted over there once. He was wearing a Dead Good shirt. I remember that.
It could have been John. I don't remember John hosting.
I don't know. I don't remember if it was, but somebody was hosting over there in a blue Dead Good shirt, and I remember that. But anyhow, you know, they come up and they're working on some kind of crowd work thing where they're like, "Give me a topic," you know, which is always risky, especially at an open mic. And I don't know the skill level of this person, but I just remember feeling so horrible when the person goes cancer. And they're like, what? And the person's like, you know, yeah, my dad has cancer or something like that. And it's like, the fuck, man?
That's what you signed up for by asking this question, man. You opened the Pandora's box, bro.
And it's like, that was really lame of that crowd, that guy to do that. But also it's like, dude, you
signed up for this.
I bet you learned a lesson tonight.
Yeah.
And that was like literally that person's first, like, they were hosting the show. They just got on stage, and it got weird immediately.
First joke of the night, cancer. Let's make cancer.
Yeah, and he's like, maybe something else. You know?
Abort, bail. All
right. I love that world, man. I don't know that I'll ever find the right group to just load up and do that, because it's, you know, a once a month commitment. That's kind of a thing. Yeah. But who doesn't want to go drink once a month, watch some comics, and just try to have like a good, encouraging time?
Yeah, I'm sure you can also. I mean, now that I'm thinking, like, just it doesn't have to be the same 10, 20 people. Like, it just accumulate a bunch of people that might be interested, and whenever it works out for them, it works out for them. But it seems like you really, like, you're trying to do good stuff for this community.
I hope so. There's
even that the Facebook. You're trying to start something on Facebook where we're trying to. I don't know who stopped it.
The survey.
Yeah, the survey. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know. For me, I'm at this weird spot where I'm in a good spot where I don't have any bias towards anything. Yeah. I get to like what I like. The show's called I'm a Fan of. It's like you can be a very funny comic that's just not for me. And I wouldn't feel any shame in telling that to your face. I'd be like, man, I see you get all these laughs. It's like, it's just not for me, man, but like you're doing good stuff and I don't dislike you or anything. And they may still be like, fuck that guy, but it's honest and I feel okay with that.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not doing anything to, like, there's no like preferential treatment or anything weird going on because it's just my show. There's nothing. I don't book any comedy shows. I don't do anything like that. Yeah. And that survey, it's like I was already getting a lot of weird messages about like, be sure you include this, be sure you do that. If you don't do something like this, just know it won't be, correct and all this kind of stuff.
Things matter too much to people, man.
They do. Yeah. And what I realized, it's like, man, I'm going to put all this time and effort in. Because originally the person who gave me the idea, it wasn't my idea. They were just like, hey, if you did this, you're like a completely neutral party.
Yeah,
and they're like,
trusted too. It's not like you're just like somebody. You're trusted.
I feel like I'm putting an effort, and then we're like, and for your effort, you could like read the results on your show, post it on your Substack that you write on.
Smart, yeah.
And your reward will be getting some traffic, but it's like it's not going to make you famous or anything,
right?
And then the reward for the comics and the scene is like the newcomers learn a little bit, the people that are in it maybe learn a little bit, even maybe the clubs, like the clubs get a little bit of feedback on like what's good, what's bad, and it just made it feel like it was already leaning towards like, oh, his stuff's bullshit. He didn't include this, or he didn't say anything about that, and it just made me just be like, fuck this. This is not. This is supposed to be fun and enlightening.
Yeah,
and it was a good glimpse very quickly into the politics that I'm able to avoid right now, and I was like, I don't think I want to dip into that right now because those people, man, they like every scene. I'm sure has it. Everything has it. It's very high school.
Yeah.
About like, they're going to try to find a way to say that this little survey did something to them.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this was totally, I didn't vote in this.
Yeah.
This was all other people doing this. So I was like, maybe it'll go down in the future. Maybe somebody else will take it on. But I was like, I'm not going to do that quite yet. Because I don't need any, right now, everything I get to do with this show is really positive.
Yeah.
I get to say hi and be friendly to people. And it's like, I don't want to.
That's a cool place to be in.
I don't want to go into a club and somebody be like, what was this thing on this? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Those people said it. You know,
that's weird energy to deal with.
So I just felt like, this is not for me. This is not what I want to do.
For sure.
I mean, just that short thing of messages, and it's only like a handful of people.
Yeah.
And if you spend any time in the scene, people know. I don't have to say anything. They figure out who it is. They're difficult on all different levels. I was like, that's just not my place. You know, I like being neutral.
Yeah.
And if somebody's just like, like I'd rather you not like me just because I don't enjoy your material.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. We can leave it at that.
That's fair. That's just people, But the scene seems like such a delicate thing.
I mean, it is. I get it. It's a very personal thing for comics, where comedy is personal for all of us. But it just sucks that you can't really, step outside of that and just understand what someone's trying to do for the ultimate good for the whole scene,
Right.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I was like, maybe I just won't say a word, make it, and just drop it randomly.
That's not a bad idea.
And just be like, I changed my mind, bitches.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
Because I think the fact that I announced it and tried to get participation maybe was a bad thing.
Yeah.
That people want to sculpt it how they want to sculpt it,
Have you ever thought about producing like a comedy show? Like I'm a fan of show?
Yeah, I need to learn more is what I've realized. Yeah. I would love to. Right now it comes down to that work balance thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to. My wife and I mean, we have real aspirations of some kind of like mixed use venue I love music, for music and comedy. Trying to figure out how that would work, you know, but I would love to produce a show. I mean, I think there's a certain type of show. Like when I see like the Cowabunga guys putting on their show and you realize they're filling in a gap. Mm-hmm. There's a gap between open mics, bar mics, and club
shows,
and they have found a way to do something that's not 100%, like it's not totally self-serving to them. It's not like we're so incredible. It's, oh no, this is an opportunity. Even though it's in a bar, it's almost a club show, but not quite. You're in this weird zone where it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be better than some of these other things. And so I feel like a comic can get something out of that.
Yeah.
And so I think trying to find a way where I can learn the lessons that I don't know I need to learn before we go in too deep.
Yeah.
I don't know. What kind of show would you want to run if you were running a show?
I don't know. I think about that all the time, and it's like, it's funny because like my father-in-law, he has this like office that he works out of, and he's like, I want to have a show back there with all my friends, and I want you to bring you and your comics and have a show first. And I think about that too, you know. But we're just two dudes, and we're never gonna do it. Like, you know. But I think about all these different things that could happen, and you know, things that have already been done. I'm trying to think of what's unique. And same point, like do I have time to commit to doing one show a month? I don't think I do. Do I have time to do it once every 4 months? Maybe.
The show producers I talk to, you realize like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
A lot of effort to put on what is like, you can look at a show and go, it's pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
But if you really dissect it, you're like, damn, they had to put
it is.
Just booking the comics and all the potential issues that come up with dealing with artists who are not the most reliable.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
and then you want to get them paid, and you're like, everything's on ticket sales, and you got you know, you got to work with the club. Like it is a big time commitment, and it's stressful, and you know, again, it's something that it's nice for them, but they're doing it for everyone else. You know, like so many of us wouldn't get stage time at DCC or at other places if it wasn't for comics that are producing shows.
Exactly.
You know,
I think that's what to me is making DCC kind of jump out at the moment is the fact that you can go to their website and there's a lot of comics producing shows on off nights or off times.
It's so cool.
You know, like a daytime on a weekend or a 10:30 on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be the sold out show. I don't know that club's making any money off those shows, but it's important to the development of the scene or at least the culture at that venue.
Like those are the shows. Like it's the comic produced shows that's driving me getting better. You know, like it's I'm getting 15 minutes. Sometimes I'm getting 8 to 15 minutes at these shows. And
the other spot that seems to do good, you'd have to ask comics, you know, to get their opinion. But as an outsider, it seems like those improv and fringe shows are great opportunities as well, where it's
awesome
like you're giving people chances they normally wouldn't get. That might be somebody's first headlining spot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's still kind of a showcase style where,
and it's an opportunity for other comics to get a foot in the door with the improv. You know, everyone wants the improv in the back on their videos and on their pictures, and it's something that people are really chasing.
Yeah, how many people have that profile picture?
I know, right? I got one.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's that's what people are. That's what comics want, and that's really sometimes the only way that comics gonna get there is when someone has Anne French and like, hey, come on, do the show with me.
The closest parallel I have is I played music for a long time, and so that's the stages. Those are the stages I play guitar. Yeah, and like one of the bands I was in was kind of like an indie rock band, so I did guitar and like backup vocals. And then the band
vocals, Travis? Oh shit! I can tell by your voice.
The band before that was a punk rock band, and I was like the lead vocalist. And,
shit! All right.
That was the one I had like the most connection with. You know, that was like you're a teenager and you did it, and into your 20s. But I got to stand on a lot of different stages, and so that was the closest thing I have to compare to being a comic, where you're like, oh wow, this stage is 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and I'm looking over everyone, as opposed to like I'm standing on the concrete with you, or this room is 100 feet wide versus that place we were in that was 30 feet wide.
Right.
And all the dynamics that go into trying to like capture a crowd. And I was so immature and ignorant back then how to even navigate that. The music world's a little different. It's harder to get mentors. It feels like more of a competition a lot of times. But on the flip side, you're also able to kind of like hide behind your instrument. Something about having like holding that guitar, it feels like enough of a barrier. You
can feel vulnerable up there.
You do, but you can kind of get lost in it a little easier. Like if I'm playing a guitar, I can like turn towards a drum set, and I can like I can like jam with my drummer for a minute.
Also, strength in numbers. I mean, you're on stage with
I got
like
3-4 people,
exactly,
and I'm not alone. I can look at each other and we can both be like, "This fucking sucks."
We're doing horrible right now.
and whereas a comic, it's like
solo mission, dude.
I can't go like, I'll just play this chord, progression a couple more times until I feel better.
No.
If you pause for a moment, it's silence.
Yeah.
You're just dying.
Yeah.
It's dying, and there's only a few people who can handle that emptiness well. So it's like I feel like that's what's so important about these venues offering you guys these opportunities where it's like even just standing on that stage in a quarter filled room,
right?
But feeling the stage presence, whatever, and then these lights are different than the lights I'm used to. This echo off the back wall is different.
Where am I going to look when I talk? Back door, like I can talk to everybody just going like this, but at the old DCC, like the old stage, you had people all the way over
far
there,
left,
over
far
there,
right. Some weirdo just tucked in a corner back there.
Yeah, just, what are you doing, dude?
So I mean, I think that's the places that are doing that, and I'm sure I'm leaving some spots out because I don't get to go to every venue. But man, it's important. Those aren't money making shows.
Yeah,
maybe some alcohol sales, but
no, that's really where I mean, any younger comics like myself, that's where we're gonna get our practice. That's where we're gonna kind of cut our teeth and turn this into something that could be special.
I feel like the spot I would love to have around here, like in a perfect world, is I don't know that I would ever want to be a person who could be like, we're gonna make you a star, we're gonna make you famous, right? But I would love to be a person who could be a stepping stone to that person.
Yeah.
So I think it would be incredible to have a venue that does a lot of showcase style, gives those opportunities, and then maybe you have some special events where it's like more traditional headlining.
Yeah, you bring someone
3-4 comic show.
Yeah.
But something where you could kind of build up your connections and reach out to people and go like, hey, I got 3 people that you might really want to come check out. You know, and kind of be a good stepping stone, like a person that you can trust. Like if I give you my opinion, I've really thought about it.
Yeah.
And you can take it or leave it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know. And then at the same time, like it's just kind of fun being in that zone where you can, like, I want to be able to go watch other shows at other clubs all the time.
Yeah.
And then see, like, is this a gap? Can I bring you on this thing and fill you in here and work that? But I don't know how that works yet. That's all still really romanticized in my head of like, I could just open a thing, put on a show, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And right now there's a couple show producers out there like, this guy has no clue. But,
no idea.
And then, I would like to do that with music and comedy.
Yeah.
I feel like comedy has such a boom right now. And
it is.
And music is struggling. It's really, like, as hard as it is to get someone to go to a comedy show, I feel like it's even harder right now to get them to go to a concert that's not a famous person.
Right. It has to be someone that has, some clout to their name.
Yeah, but like, when was the last time you and your wife went to see any local musician of any genre?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a hard sell right now.
Yeah.
But it
shouldn't
shouldn't
be.
be,
You think it's
but
like
it
a
is.
social media thing? You think it's just like comedy, and this might be the bubble that I live in because I consume a lot of comedy just because I'm in it. But you think just because maybe it's easy for someone to post a 30-second clip of laughter, and like, this would be a fun experience to maybe go test out in person. Maybe you don't get that with people playing, instruments in their rooms or.
Well, can you think of any time you went to go see a show, a concert that was not a famous person? Any kind of thing. Did you have any friends that were in bands or artists of any kind?
No, I mean, the last time that I could remember, I went to South by Southwest, and so it was a music festival that I went to,
right.
and I ended up watching someone.
So you watched smaller acts there?
Yeah. But it was under the umbrella of something that was massive.
So when you were watching the smaller acts, and there's no, like, I'm not trying to set you up, there's no wrong answer here. I'm just curious. When you were watching the smaller acts, were you thinking like, this is incredible, or like, oh, this is a good little time filler until I go watch the other act, or like, what was it for you?
That's what it felt like. It was like, all right,
filler.
it's like, we have this afternoon, let's go, what are we going to do? Let's pop into this place that has some oysters, let's eat some oysters, watch some music, and I'm like, okay, now we're good. What's the next thing we want to do?
Yeah, well, music went through a weird thing. Comedy's been through a weird thing, but they're a little different. Like, an artist used to make a ton of money off CDs. So like when I was in this punk rock band, this would have been 2000, like 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe that era.
Okay.
And
this was in your 20s, you said?
I turned 21 while I was in that band.
How long was this band together? Like,
so, we started in high school, but it wasn't really serious. It was just playing around. But the moment I graduated high school and turned 18, I was like, we need to see, like we're playing these local shows. Friends and people say they like stuff, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You know, they're being nice. I want to see what a stranger outside of Texas thinks.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see what it is because it's already like a genre that, you know, it's punk rock music. It's like not everybody loves that. And so I immediately was like, we need to we need to really write songs. We need to really record something. And we need to go. Mm-hmm. We need to do something. Mm-hmm. And so we spent probably from like 19 to 20, like dialing that in. Like we rented a rehearsal space. We were writing songs. Nice. We were all working 2 jobs, like saving up money. I don't remember if the other guys were working 2 jobs, but I remember working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Saving up money, and we like recorded our own album on our own dime, and we did it in like in this like DIY studio, but they did a great job. It was all like punk rock, you know?
Yeah.
And then we printed up I think we printed up 2,000 CDs or something, you know, with our own money. We went and we did it. And I remember we booked these shows. So very similar to comedy. We show up to these shows at these bars. Yeah. Nobody knows who we are. And it's, you know, it's mixed reviews. Like we sell, you know, 10 CDs, couple shirts, you know, we're not making much money. Yeah. And how old are you?
I'm 33.
33. Do you remember the Warped Tour, or was that just...
No.
There used to be this...
Maybe. It sounds familiar, actually. Yeah.
There used to be this summer, like, punk rock, alternative music, indie music kind of tour. There might be 50 bands on it. And back then, you could get a ticket for, like, $25. Okay. It was incredible. Yeah. And it ran, I think, for, like, 20 or 25 years. But I just had it in my mind. I was like, okay, we're not going to get a good show on, like, a Monday, Tuesday, anywhere. We're just not going to do it. Yeah. And let's go to Warped Tour and see if maybe we can like beg people to buy a couple CDs. And when we did that, we had like CD players, and we're like, "Hey, we're a band. You want to check out our music?" You know, and you just walk down this line of 10,000 people waiting to get in, 20,000 people. Were
you guys
stops.
the only band doing that?
The first time we did it, it was maybe 2 bands. Okay. The second time we did it, it was like 15 bands.
You guys think you started something with that?
I don't think we were the first to do it. Okay. I think we were in that first group of people, but we definitely didn't invent that idea. Okay. But we were some of the early adopters of it, and then I think other bands saw us because we noticed people would do it like only in their towns, and then there were bands that did the whole tour. Because the first time we did it, we sold like 50 CDs, and we had like gas money, and like it was like, oh, okay, this is working.
That's promising stuff, yeah.
And we thought it was kind of a fluke, so we played a couple more shows where you sell like 10 CDs, a couple shirts, barely made anything. You know, you're leaving the club with $100, and you got to get to a city that's 4 hours away. And so then it comes to the next Warped Tour stop, and we kind of had a system. Now we sold like 100 CDs, and we're like, okay, all right, we got a little bit, and we were selling for like $10, so we made $1,000.
Yeah.
So again, we got gas, we got food, and like things are working.
Right.
And so then we just decided like, screw playing these shows, because we were still booking up shows while we were doing it, because it's all, we're small, we're nobody. And it was rewarding, like the people were enjoying it at these shows we were going to, but the response at the Warped Tour, where these people liked that genre of music, was so much better. So we got to where we could sell anywhere between 100 and 200 CDs a day, guaranteed. And they had to stop every day.
Wow.
Almost every day, right? Yeah. Probably 5 days out of the week they had a show.
Yeah.
And so we just started doing that, and we just had this system. We knew what time to get up. We knew what time to get out there, and we were selling these CDs. So you're talking about anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a day.
Wow.
As a 3-piece punk rock band. And you're not even playing music. You're playing your CD for people. Yeah. Right? And we had our instruments, but we never even brought them out. We're just doing this, And it got to the point where, like, we looked the part. We looked like musicians, and then our van was painted like black and red polka dots, and it's this shitty looking punk rock band, and we have Texas license plates. So we're pulling up to this arena where this festival is going to happen, real similar to like South by Southwest, like you were talking about, a smaller version of that. And the security, there were 2 security groups. There was one for the tour and one for the venue, and the venue handled the parking. So they just wave you into the parking. They're like, clearly they're on the tour. Look at this band. They're from Texas.
They're artists.
These are musicians. Get them.
Make way.
And so we were like,
that's so cool.
Unofficially, on the tour here. And we would just try to hide from the Warped Tour security.
Yeah.
Because they kind of look at us across the way. And eventually they caught us, and it was all cool, but they just kind of gave us a stern warning about like where to go and not to go. And they were very cool about it. But the point being is like, we had all that money to fund doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's killing bands now is it's such a struggle. Everything's streaming. You
Yeah.
make no money
you don't make
streaming.
money off of it, right? Yeah.
And if you go to a show, the venue's struggling to make money. I don't know how much they're paying out. Because used to, if you played a show, you get like a door or the alcohol sales, or you split something up, you figure it out. So you could leave a show making some decent money, but now you got to bring this crowd, and it's hard. And I feel like you've got this group of jaded musicians who knew how it was, who are like, TikTok ruined this and social media ruined this. It's like, I don't know that it ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can still get out there. And I'm not sure that they have figured out how to hack social media the way that comics have.
Yeah.
I think comics know, like, okay, I'm giving some material for free in hopes that we're going here.
Right.
And I think a musician has a harder time going, I'm going to play some stuff for free and it's going to make them come to a show and buy a shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it, I'm wondering, is it like, for like a stand-up clip that you watch on like Instagram or TikTok, it requires, good video, good sound.
Yeah.
And then obviously good content.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be hard to capture that because, like, even like regular clips, like we're just using an iPhone, and
it's hard to get good sound.
It's hard to get good sound, and it's hard. I feel like it could be hard, especially when there's instruments playing and you don't have like a soundboard to like catch mics off the instrument and really get high quality sound off these instruments.
It's real hard.
Yeah.
But the devil's advocate is like, comics have adapted, right? If you talked to a stand-up comic from the 80s and you told them you're going to film your material and give it away and you got to try to write, like if you're a serious professional comic right now, you're probably attempting to write 30 minutes to an hour every year or 2 years, right? Like if you're on a big level. Whereas back then, you might have an hour that lasts 3 or 4 years, 5 years, right? And so it's moving faster now. And then how many mid-range to lower-level comics do you see pull up with like a rig? They've got a camera. It's got a good mic. They know where to set it up. They know how to frame it. Yeah. They went and watched YouTube tutorials. They saved up money. They figured it out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And
that's true.
I think, I don't think it's luck. I think that comics currently in this boom, some of them have realized like it's a new game.
Yeah.
This is how you play it.
Yeah.
So if I need to pick up extra shifts to afford this camera, I got to do it.
Yeah.
If I need to, eat 2 meals a day instead of 3 to afford this thing, I got to do it. And so the ones that are willing to do that, I think, are doing well. It's like, you familiar with Zoltan Kazis? He's kind of on the come up. He's not local.
Austin? Is he?
No, he's from, originally he's from San Diego. And now he lives in New York. But anyway, he's a favorite of mine. But one of the reasons he's my favorite is one of my favorites is that he came through with another comic who's doing well now, Dustin Nickerson.
Okay. Yeah.
They rolled through Richardson towards the tail end of the pandemic, and they played at this bar that was not like a traditional stand-up comedy thing. But they booked it out as a show. They sold tickets online. They did all their promotion, and they did a whole DIY tour around the country like that.
Yeah.
And that built up their fan base, and now they have real fans. Like, they're getting millions of views.
Yeah.
They're getting true comedy specials recorded and stuff. And I remember sitting at the back of that bar. I didn't know them at the time. I came there to see Dustin Nickerson, but I didn't know who Zoltan was, and he was I guess maybe they were trading headlining through the whole tour. I don't know. And but I remember watching them, like, they were setting up cameras at the back of the venue, checking out things. And so it's like all the clips, all the material they got from this DIY tour that other people might have held on to for, like, I'm going to make a special.
Yeah.
They were like, no, I need to build my audience.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the game has changed like that.
It's changed.
It's
I don't know that the musicians have realized it's changed to that point, or they're just, I mean, it's just as hard to write a song as it is to come up with 15 minutes of material.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's a good excuse that, like, it's hard, right? It's like, it's difficult.
I wonder what elements, because like stand-up, it's on me, like it's just me. With the band, you got 5 other personalities you got to deal with. You got 5 other schedules you got to deal with.
Sure, but as a comic, you've got openers and features that can derail your set.
It's true.
You got a club.
Yeah.
You got a soundboard that can mess up. I mean, there's so many variables still out of your control that you have to learn to adapt.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with a band. It's like, if you got a flaky band member, you got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Or decide, is it worth working with it because they're that good?
Yeah.
Right. We all know these comics who, I worked with Lawrence, right? It's like, I'm sure very recently in his career, a couple years ago, he was incredibly unreliable and was incredibly difficult to work with.
Yeah.
But he's still funny, and so people had to make those decisions of like, do they or do they not want to work with him based off of, and some people said no, some people said yes, right? And so I think it's the same. I just think, I don't know the answer. I think, what I've noticed on this podcast, at least?
What's up?
Comics come in with an incredible amount of vulnerability. There's something about y'all where the ego is checked early on.
Yeah.
Right? And
consistently, like every night.
And because I feel like even talking to you now, it's like, I feel like I'm talking to you, not a version of you that you brought to this show.
Yeah.
Whereas with musicians, when I talk to them, even though I am a musician, it's like the moment that mic kicks on, I feel like I'm trying to break down a barrier. I feel like they have their guard up. Maybe they're worried about looking cool, or maybe they're worried about sounding a certain way when they speak about their stuff. And I wonder, I don't know if it's right, but I wonder if musicians that become more vulnerable and are seen as real people faster would do better.
I feel like I
don't know, because like nobody likes anybody who's attempting to be cool.
No one likes that person,
right?
I think, and the reason why we like people, whether they are being genuine or not, the people that we end up liking, it feels like, oh, that's a cool dude right there. That's a genuine person right there. That's what we like about the people that we like.
Because the old music industry, there was so much mystery.
Yeah.
Right. Like, think of any artist you liked, when you were like 15.
Right.
It's like you didn't see them all over social media.
No,
it was like a magazine or something. And so you had all these opinions of what they might, you'd mysterious and cool. But it's like nowadays you can see like some rock, like I can see the lead singer of Aerosmith wearing socks with sandals. And it's like, that's not rock and roll, man. But in a way you're like, well, yeah, isn't he like 70? Yeah, he probably needs to be comfortable now, right?
He's worried about comfort right now.
And I don't know that hurts your career, right? Like, I think that old way of like having just enough phony to sell it is gone, and maybe we're moving into a realm where like people sniff out phony fast.
Even on stage, they'll sniff like funny is in the truth. I like the funniest stuff is always the stuff that comes from some truth, The more honest you are about everything, the more honest you are on stage, I feel like it brings out the better version of you on stage. And that thing that you can't, there's nothing that's being said, that intangible thing. It's like, that's part of it. There's something about what you're saying that feels true and that resonates with everybody. And I'm sure it translates off the stage as well for musicians. And
I hope it does. I mean, when I talk to them though, locally, the people I talk to, they just seem defeated.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking like, what is it going to be to get that spark to really get them going again? Yeah. There's not quite the same open mic scene in music like that comics get. There used to be. You would show up with like a guitar and people might just like play and swap songs and have a good time. And it feels like they're struggling to get that back because, and like, how much free work are you guys willing to do in the beginning? You do so much free,
everything. Like I'm banking on not getting paid ever.
Right, you're understanding. Like I'm cutting my teeth.
Yeah.
I think because you buy instruments and it's very expensive to get going,
your startup costs.
It's harder to justify playing for nothing for a very long time.
Yeah,
people do it. Like they sacrifice. And then the other weird thing with music is like you have your original material. But a lot of the ways you make money is by doing cover music. So you might go play on a patio for 3 hours at a restaurant or bar.
Doesn't feel rewarding.
No, but it makes you money. Yeah. But maybe it's a little easier to get jaded quicker. Yeah. Because it's not like you get to go do a hour-long cover of Bill Burr's whatever.
Let me just transcribe the set.
How dirty. Even though it would be fun, it's not what you want to do.
That's not what I'm doing.
Right? Like you'd have a blast for a minute, but then it becomes work and it's not, So I don't know, but there's people doing it. Like there's new bands all the time that make it. Yeah. So I'm still kind of learning what that is, but it feels like similar to comedy. It's like these bands just need these spaces. There's a couple musicians here locally I've been harping on, and they just don't have the nerve to do it, and I'm still harping on them. They know who they are, but I keep telling them, it's like, look, you talk about this, and you're a veteran of this music scene.
Yeah.
Take the lead on this.
Yeah.
You would be great at that. You should do that. And they're like, well, it's gonna be hard, and we'll make a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, but 5 to 6 years from now, the fact that you invested in this, it's probably gonna pay off. Because they need these spaces to play, and they need these spots to record, and like, I like writing articles about certain things. I was telling them, I was like, you'd be great writing an article. I was like, you don't need, if you wanted to even publish it through my stuff, I was like, I don't care about money. If it makes money, you can have all the money from that part. But like, your opinion would probably be interesting to a lot of people. And they're just like, I don't know, man. Too cool. And it's like, well, you got to get over that, I think.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to look back 50 episodes and think, what a jackass about some of the stuff I'm talking about. Maybe even this one, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. You got to try something, right?
You got to try something, especially when you're in that space. I mean, part of this is pushing yourself on stage, off stage, in different ways, and the scene kind of gets you there. And if the scene isn't there, you got to help create the scene. You got to be a part of it. You know? Yeah.
What do you think was speaking in that moment, right? What do you think was like the worst moment for you in this last 3 years where you're like, yeah, you just got to power through that, I guess. Like, that was a bad night.
Man.
Anything stand out for you? Because I feel like that's what all these people are afraid of is, what's the worst that's going to happen? And can I tolerate that? You know?
I think it's these competitions, I learned quickly with these.
Like a funniest comic of whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I always go into it just kind of thinking, this is just 5 minutes for me. Like, I'll get 5 minutes of stage time here. I advance to get another 7 minutes. That's really what I'm trying to do. But I grew up playing sports, and I get really competitive. Like, part of it's like I get competitive, and I know how I feel about how I did. I feel like I'm pretty honest about how I get off the stage. I'm like, I know I did well. I didn't do well. I could have done better here. I'm pretty honest about how I performed. And there's times where there's like 1 or 2 competitions that I did, and I went up there, and this is like the second round maybe. Like, I've gone through. I'm feeling good, and I go up, and it's a complete dud of a set. And the thing, I felt like shit afterwards. I felt so much like shit because it mattered to me. Like, I let it matter to me. It was like, I'm performing in front of a club.
You're trying to play it cool, but it's a big show.
And it's a full room, and my peers are here. They're going to go up after me and before me, and everything mattered too much. And I left that feeling like, man, that was such a horrible experience. I don't want to put myself in that position again. Which is why I'm like going up there with like the right headspace of being, I'm performing for me, Yeah. This joke is for me, whether you like it or not. I'm doing it because I like to do it. And eventually, hopefully, everyone's on the same page with me when I do the joke. But I'm trying to make it a selfish experience. But when I do that, I promise you that it'll be a good experience for everybody.
Yeah, comedy competitions are weird, right?
Yeah.
And
it brought out the worst in me.
Going back to music, though, what we used to have doesn't exist anymore, really. But when I was first starting and our band was terrible, there were these battle of the bands that you could get on.
Oh, yeah, classic, yeah.
Classic, right?
Yeah.
And the way you won a battle of the bands was by the crowd cheering. So I'm sure it's similar with comedy.
Yeah.
Whoever's getting the big laughs might win that night, right?
Yeah.
Because how do you really judge it? It's so subjective, right?
Yeah.
And so usually what happened with the bands is whoever brought the crowd won the competition, right? And that was it. And it didn't matter because there was some that we won, and we were not the best band. We were not that great, but the judges happened to like our style of music. It wasn't that we were great at that style. And then we had enough friends there to scream and go crazy. And so with the comedy competition, it's kind of awkward too, right? Because on one hand, it's really lame in the fact that how do you judge subjective material? Like, how do you say someone's better? It's comedy. It's funny in different ways. But on the other hand, I've seen what having funniest of whatever city or does for people as a credit.
Right, yeah.
And it's like when someone goes on stage with this credit or when they reach out to a booker with that credit, it's like, okay, this is valuable for their career. Even though it's a little awkward, it does help.
Right.
And logic should say like, okay, some somewhat untalented people might slip through if they bring a good audience, but you still have to be funny.
So got to be, at the end of the day, there's got to,
you still had to earn
sense,
it, right?
You know? Yeah.
You didn't win it just because
Right.
you couldn't get 60 people there to fake laugh for you for 15 minutes or whatever. It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Your friends aren't that good of a friend for you.
If I had those, oh boy.
Right? So it's like, okay, maybe I just need to get out of the way, and it's like, maybe you can go like, yeah, it's hard to judge comedy, but we're doing our best, and the person who wins this, the person who comes in as a runner-up, that's still beneficial for them. And so it's a weird thing.
It's a weird dynamic, and it's like every comic I feel like knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Every comic knows exactly what the competition is for. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a great way for the club to promote a competition and make some money and have comics bring people in, and for us, it's a good opportunity to get a credit, that we can attach to our names. But it's a personal thing for all of us. Like we're not trying to be competitive, but the way that the scene kind of is, and not just Dallas, I mean anywhere, it turns into a little bit of competition.
Well, you said it earlier though. You played sports, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what did you play?
I played basketball.
Okay. I played basketball too.
Yeah.
Where what size school were you in?
Oh no, so I have a bit about this. My career
you do?
ended,
Okay.
My career ended in 7th grade. Yeah. My love for the game went into I was like a weekend warrior, dude. I played in tournaments, in college.
Where did you grow up?
Around here. So I went to Berkner for a little bit.
Big school.
Bigger school. Then went to Plano East.
Okay.
And then I went to college at UTD, and
So Berkner, Highway 78.
Yeah.
Okay, you take 78 north out to those small farm towns by Lake Lavon. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
That's where I went to school.
Okay.
And so I played on like our, I'm like varsity, but we were like a 2-3A school. There's no tryouts really. You're on the team.
Coach knows you get on.
Yeah. And but anyway, we were good for our area. We were district champs, but talking about sports, it's like even though it stopped at 7th grade, it's like, man, it teaches you something about effort and reward of effort.
Right. And that in a good way and a bad way. Like now, like I became too competitive with Monopoly. I don't want to lose, and so like my 30s my late 20s into my 30s has really been just forget about don't be competitive. Just live life without being. It's better for me. It's better for my mental health.
Yeah.
And so this competition kind of threw a wrench. These competitions throw a wrench into all that because now I'm doing something that I really love to do. I'm doing this thing. I really love to do it. Mm-hmm. It brings out the best in me. I feel like comedy brings out the best in me. And then I'm already being judged every time I go on stage. Mm-hmm. I'm already being judged. Mm-hmm. I'm already every show matters to me because, the potential of someone being there, someone be like, hey, I like you. Can you do this show for me? And now you throw this competition into the mix where it's like now these bookers at a club that you really want to, perform for and work with. And then they're like, nah, that wasn't good enough. And it really, and I get it. And everyone's going through it. And it's totally, it stung a lot, especially when such a bad performance that I had. And I was like, fuck, dude. I had a chance and I didn't, come through in that moment.
Yeah.
But it just made me better,
But, just like sports, I mean, you still get that opportunity of like, they're going to see you on another show.
Yeah.
And they're going to
It's not the end of the world.
And they're going to see how you handled this rejection.
Yeah.
And did you handle it like a professional?
Right.
Did you go learn something from it and work on something? So I see the value in it, right? Because one of my, it's probably a bad side of my personality. But when you see those like very positive groups of people, they all pat each other. Man, you're doing great. Yeah. You're doing awesome. I just want to throw up. But it's like they should be positive.
Yeah.
But when you see people just patting each other on the back, it's like it hits a limit and then it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And so it's like I never want to rain on anyone's parade, but inside I'm just thinking this is garbage advice.
Yeah.
Like you should feel a little bad about it. It wasn't great, but you're not a bad person, but let's work on it.
I feel like I'm bad. I feel like I'm bad at that though. Like if someone were to have a really bad set, I might just like avoid the conversation altogether. I'd be like, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna go to the restroom and let you walk by me because I don't want you to ask me how was my set.
My experience with good musicians that were successful, more successful than me anyway. they there was that, like, you could tell them, like, whoo, rough, huh?
Yeah.
That was a rough one, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah.
and they could, like, take the shit. They could take the joke and be like, we'll get them on the next night, I guess, you know.
Self-awareness.
And that was that was like a sports thing.
Yeah.
Of, like, sometimes you can do everything right.
And it won't go right.
Yeah. What's that old phrase? It's like, you didn't lose, they beat you.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't lose. It's just
Yeah.
that was better, you know. And I think a lot of artists struggle with that because, you know, a joke, a song, it's so personal.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But
But you got to be able to shake it off. It's like, well, that booker just didn't get me.
Yeah.
And it's all right. There's how many others,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's what these are conversations that I have with comics recently too, where it's everything matters too much right now. You know, the open mic matters too much. Being like performing in front of the booker at the open mic matters too much. You featuring for a headliner. This is my first time. That matter. Everything matters too much. It's when it doesn't matter anymore. When you're just up there because it's you and this is what you like to do. That's when you're going to be the best version of yourself on stage. When nothing matters.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The closest I've gotten to that is I try to remind myself that no matter what I'm doing, no one cares about me. You know?
Yeah, honestly,
that, like,
yeah.
everyone is so hyper-focused on their self
Yeah.
that it really doesn't matter.
It
They're
doesn't,
they're
yeah.
not thinking about me.
Yeah.
They didn't think about that episode. They didn't think about that show we produced. They
yeah.
didn't think about it. They don't care.
They're going to forget about you.
Yeah, they looked at it for a couple minutes or what, you know, whatever. That's it. So
And
it's like,
if you have something really great together, then they'll be like, I'll throw you a follow.
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
and then they'll slightly follow you throughout your career.
And it's like, so I don't ever, I just do what I like. You
Do what
know,
you like
I make
to
a
do,
clip that
yeah.
I like. If I feel
Yeah.
like it's something that somebody said that I enjoyed, then I'll share that. And it's like, it's going to work out however it works
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you
I don't,
can't-
you know, I don't know if that's good because at the same time, I'm telling people, I'm like, you know, these musicians need to figure out how to work harder. Like, so maybe, maybe I don't know.
I think we like the process. Like part of
Yeah.
it, like I don't know, if this was something else, like if it was work related, if I had to do social media for work as opposed to doing social media for like comedy, comedy is so much easier for me to do than it is for work. You know, so it's you know, whether it's music or comedy, doing the work that you're supposed to do to get you the next opportunity should feel rewarding. You know,
Yeah.
it's just I feel like when you tie the reward to the audience reaction is when like things start to like quickly deteriorate about like, you know, oh man, they didn't like that joke, man, what am I going to do? They don't like this. It can become a very negative experience.
Yeah, it's tricky, man, because like
Yeah.
you want to put your best foot forward, you want to do a good job, but you want to
Yeah.
be true to yourself
Yeah.
and walk in that line of like,
Yeah.
you know, this is me and what I want to do.
Right.
Because it, you know, I mean, you still want to please a crowd.
You do.
Otherwise, you wouldn't do it at
Yeah,
all,
it's
right?
true. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you can
You're trying to make them laugh.
You can tell your wife all the jokes you want for the rest of your life.
You're the funniest person in the world, sweetheart.
Yeah, man, it's weird. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I love going to open mic still.
Yeah.
Is to remind myself, like when I watch a headliner kill an hour and just destroy that, you know, every block that they worked on was so tough to get there.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I
like
started there.
that
you
just
know?
just to remind, because you know, when I was only going to like weekend headliner shows, which are arguably the best shows to go to.
Yeah.
You know, when you go see Tom Segura in the the theater downtown, I can't remember the name
Yeah,
right
the
now.
Majestic,
The Majestic,
yeah.
thank you. It's a beautiful theater,
Yeah.
and Tom is just Tom Segura.
Yeah,
You know, whether you
right.
like him or not,
Right.
you know, top shelf comic, right? And you forget, like, man, it's really hard to write a good joke. Like, he made that look really, really simple.
Yeah.
And so when you go back to that open mic again, when you see that person just get that big pop,
Yeah.
and it's like they almost stumbled into it. They don't even realize how they
Yeah.
got there, you know, and you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, they're hooked now.
Yeah.
Now they felt it, you know. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know. To kind of go, as you were talking, I was thinking about it more. I think maybe the type of show I would want to try to do first, if I put one on, I think the safest way to do it where it would be positive for everyone and I could learn a lot with the stakes being low is maybe like an annual, like I'm a fan of, like feature, like my favorites or features or like, you know,
Right.
where you could set it. You could get a good host to just be like, this was like my favorite up and comer this year, and they come
Right.
out and do some time, and like this is one of the features you got to keep an eye on, and like,
Yeah.
oh man, this is you know, these two are incredible headliners, and some kind of weird feature show like that where
Right.
you're showing. So it's like you maybe you can get a credit out of it. It's like maybe in some small town in Kansas, they're like
He was on I'm a Fan
on
of.
the I'm a Fan of featured
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Like it means nothing, but
Yeah.
maybe it looks
In
good written down.
Kansas? Yeah. It's going to mean something, man.
Yeah, so like people around here are just like, no, it's that podcast guy.
Yeah.
But like maybe it would be worth your time to do it. But then at the same time, it's like a fun party where people can just get together and have a good time.
Right.
But it's not there's no real winner or loser competition thing. Because you could put, oh man, I don't know. What do you think is the most people you can have on a show without it running long?
Oh, I feel like 6 is a good number.
6,
where
okay.
you're doing like maybe 10 minutes each.
That's an hour. So,
hour,
yeah.
and maybe you throw people maybe a guest spot in there. But I think 6 is a good amount. Maybe give everyone 10 to 12 minutes. Honestly, sometimes I feel like when you go even watch a headliner and the host is doing 10 and then the feature's doing 15 or 20 and then the headliner comes and he does a full hour. I feel like the headliner gets a short end of the stick because it's like, all right, I'm kind of tired after halfway through his set. And honestly, I feel like a good, and I'm not anybody, but 30 minutes is a good headlining time. Like that's it's enjoyable for the audience before it becomes, all right.
Yeah.
I can feel the lulls in the middle of the set, and then they got to bring it back up and get you there. Like, I feel like 30-minute headliner, 10 minutes up top, maybe 15 minutes in the middle. You have yourself a good length show, but I just think the industry doesn't operate like that. And it's
everything you just said is what I need to learn through trial and error.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've noticed. Like when I go to a club, my wife and I, we hyper judge. Like we don't judge to the point like we would never insult your business.
Yeah.
Right. But we like to see what works well and what doesn't.
Naturally. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I would like to throw those shows for, is to see like how great of a comedy show can we make.
Right. Yeah.
That works well for us and what we want to do, but the comics like it, the crowds like it. It's just a nice blend, because I don't think I want to do your standard host feature headliner. It's fine. I like watching that show, but I feel like we would thrive with mid-range and beginners.
Yeah.
I think that could be something we could do well eventually. So I don't know, maybe something like that. Maybe like a nice little showcase,
Showcase is always a great way to go, because like even the, having a headliner, it creates expectations for every comic that goes up. It's like that guy's not the headliner, so he's going first, so he's probably the least funniest comic out of it, which is not necessarily the case,
Yeah.
But it creates something in the audience's mind of what to expect, and then that person either has to meet that expectation or beat that expectation. And if they don't, then he's kind of where he should have been.
Now that you've done that 30 minutes out in Tyler, I know you've overthought it multiple times, right? Yeah. So how long do you think now, after that experience, do you think it'll take you to where you get 30 minutes that you believe are just grade A? I'm ready to go back and just burn down the walls at this comedy club in Tyler for the next 30 minutes.
That's so interesting.
Because now you've felt it.
Yeah.
And you have some experience writing now.
I feel like, so I did 30 minutes, and I think in totality, I probably had like 40 minutes, because there's like some stuff that I didn't use and things I don't use anymore. But for me to feel like I have a killer 30, I'd probably need to get to I need like 50 minutes to an hour's worth of material. I need a whole other set.
I got you.
For me to feel like I can replace things and just take all the things that feel like lulls in the set, just to take them out and put all right, this is something that I feel excited about. I want to pop this in here.
When you did that 30, did you feel like, did you go in with a plan or of like, I am going to stretch these premises, or I'm going to pack in more jokes since I have more time?
Yeah.
What was your thought process on that?
I planned on stretching a few things, because like the 7 minutes on nipples, I was like, all right, I can stretch that to maybe 8 if I needed to. Honestly, I can do 10. I can pull up to 10.
You just pull up a chair. How long? You tell me how long we need to talk about.
But that was like that's like if I look at my see, I'm 15, I'm at 20 minutes, and I still got. I was like, all right, dude, 10 minutes on nipples is coming up,
Yeah.
But I did. I created a set, and I can always. It's always so interesting, because like I know when I'm nervous when I start writing out my set list like multiple times. I'm like, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this, and it's not nerves in terms of like these jokes won't work well. It's more like, am I gonna remember the order that I'm gonna say this in? Because that really matters to me and how I jump between different bits.
Do you remember how many bits you were working with that night?
Probably like 9 to 10.
And so when you do a normal kind of 10 or 15 minute set, you're talking about maybe 3 or 4?
Maybe 6. Yeah,
maybe
6-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
there's some longer ones that I don't get a chance to do in the 15-minute sets.
Yeah, but making sure you're keeping an order from 6 to 10, I mean, that's a significant jump.
Yeah. So that to me is the ultimate challenge of doing 25 to 30 minutes is like, I just want to be able to know exactly what I'm going to say. I know exactly what 30 minutes feels like in terms of all my material, and then I can deviate if I want to. Like if I want to take something out and move something in, I feel comfortable doing that. If someone were to tell me to do 15, I don't need to write it out. I know exactly what 15 feels like. And then I can just, if I don't want to do a joke, I'll just put another joke in there and swap things out. It's not a big deal, but I just haven't done 25 to 30 minutes enough to know exactly what fits in it and what I could swap out if I needed to. So that's why I'm like chasing the longer stage time, because I just want to know.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable at 30 with my material. Like, I don't want to go up there and be like, what am I going to say next?
Yeah.
I don't want to be thinking like that. I need to be going up there just on, like, that part needs to be on autopilot for me. So that way I can really enjoy the experience and, start chatting with the crowd and, really being myself on stage.
Yeah. It's weird, man. There's so many parallels with comedy and music, and I never know which is the right path of because there is I've done it both ways, where when you go on stage and you go like, this is our set list, these are the songs we're gonna play, and then I was in a different band where they wanted to just do more like free form, like
interesting.
We'll see what song comes up. And I learned that like some real famous, like Jack White's probably the most famous example, the White Stripes. And he will play shows still to this day, no set list.
Wow.
He just feels the crowd and decides what song he's going to play next.
Baller, yeah.
And he's got a good enough band, that they're well rehearsed, that he can just, yell the name of the song or start the guitar part.
Get into it.
They're ready to go.
Yeah.
And you hear of like, there's comics who can operate that way.
Yeah.
You're just like, damn, it's so good.
Part of the set, at least part of my sets, like some of them our jokes are tied together, like just because I'm trying to create like what feels to be like I'm just talking and you're just on this journey with me, as opposed to like, here's a joke, here's a joke that's a little bit out of place, and here's another joke, and it's just 30 minutes of that. So some of it needs to fit together, but like I also know what I like for shorter sets. I kind of know what I can move into a place and take out. Like I can still make it work by moving things around, and so that's what the practice of doing 30 minutes would be great for. So I can like, all right, the tail end of this 20, I can maybe combine this with this and combine this with this and try all the different connections and feel comfortable with all the directions that I can go.
Yeah. Does it still feel exciting? Because it sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Because you're 3 years, like you said, 3 years goes by fast.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it feels like this is still brand new, right?
It does, yeah.
And it's like, man, you just got nothing but options.
Yeah.
Of how you want to do it. And it's like, that exciting freedom of knowing like, it's going to work pretty good this time, but I can still fall hard.
Right, I can't. I still.
But like, you're living. It's like, that's exciting.
It is. It's very exciting.
Whereas, people who do it for a while, it's like, it's real easy to get that burnout.
Right. And so that's the ultimate goal. I don't ever want to experience that. And I know that can change once, the comedy's tied to money, and like, that's when things start to really change, and it's it's what's bringing, it's the income now. So I know that can happen. So it's, just trying to be mentally prepared to like keep that excitement for as long as you can, and that not experience burnout. I do not want to experience burnout.
I don't know if it's accurate, but what I feel like I see that's very confusing about comedy, that I'm kind of, maybe over the last couple of years, I'm starting to see this, is especially in our scene, with the pandemic, with social media, there's all these changes that came in quick. And we have some of these like 10, 15, even more year veterans who did it a certain way for a very long time. And I get worried that they feel a little like disenfranchised or something, that like it's the game's changed so rapidly.
Yeah.
But also like it's still so exciting. Like it doesn't matter that you've been doing it 20 years necessarily, because it's like you look at a guy like a recent example would be like Nate Bargatze.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's this overnight success who's been doing comedy for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, he's this new guy, and it's like, no,
he's been a rock star for a while.
Yeah, and so it's like
now even bigger rock star.
Yeah, and so it's like, what was I would love to see what his interpretation of like year 8 to year 15,
right?
Of like, was he just thinking, damn, I should have done something else with my life, or was he committed the whole way through?
Yeah, did he hate it at that time?
Because I mean, doing anything for 8 to 10 years and not having major success would be, you're thinking about it, right? And it's like one of the bands I like, the Black Keys. It's like I think they were 10 years in, and they won like Best New Artist on some award show, and maybe like a Grammy. And they're going up to get the award, like,
and they're veterans, dude.
Yeah, like we're not new. We got like 4 albums or something, and so you wonder, it's like, man, how many people, drop out at year 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, and it's like, you're so close.
That's
you're
part
almost
of it,
there. It's
some
just,
people weed themselves out because they can't do it anymore. It's they just can't take on the pressure, which is understandable, especially when your well-being is tied to it, when your money is tied to it. It can become really, really tough.
How do you feel about that when you hear me going like, it took him 20 years to have measurable success, and here you are, year 3, buddy?
Yeah.
What do you like when you sit at home and you think about, man, I got a wife, I got a kid on the way, and I could potentially be doing this 17 more years before it pays all the bills and then some.
Yeah, no, that sounds like I don't want to do it anymore.
Does it?
Sounds like I should stop, dude.
but there are so many examples that it did work out.
Yeah.
And
I think there's enough hope out there where you see the quick rise to not even fame, but like success. Like, you found a way to make a living off of this pretty quickly. There's enough of that. Not a lot of it, but enough of that for us to be like, oh, that's possible. And it's like the most, probably not the way to look at it. Like, it's not a healthy way of seeing it, because it's more than likely you just got to keep doing it until that one opportunity comes your way. And you just got to keep doing it enough to where you eventually are put in a position where there's someone in the room that matters, and then you do a really good set and they come talk to you after. Like, you just got to keep doing it. I don't know if it takes 20 years, if it takes 5 years. Again, my goal with comedy is just have a really good relationship with it. Yeah. It's an important thing in my life, and
because you don't have to ever quit it.
I don't have to quit it.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my friend. He's like an actor in New York, and he was like, "Would you be okay with just being like the local legend, like like?" And I'd be like, if I'm doing it, and my family's good, and I'm writing new jokes, and I'm performing new things, and I'm trying things out, and I'm performing in front of crowds that I want. Like, I think that would be a great life to live. I just want to do it. I just want to do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if that's the differentiating factor of like, you dropped out at year 12 and 13.
Yeah.
And all you had to do is not drop out.
That's it.
Like, I wonder if these mega headliners, it's like, did you figure it out at year 10?
Yeah.
And then it was just staying with it.
Right.
You got to put this time, because, if you thought about like any company you go work for, right? And it's like, you got to go get your education. Okay. So there's, 4 years for your bachelor's.
Right.
Then you might have to go to grad school. So you're talking 6-7 years now.
Right.
And then you're going to go in this company. You're probably going to work there for 5 years before you get any major promotion, right? So, we're 12, 13 years in now.
Yeah.
And it's like, at that point, do you quit the company, or do you grind it out another 5 or 6 years, and now you get like a higher up position?
Right.
Now you're getting some real money.
Yeah.
They're giving you like stock options and like, oh shit, dude, you get a car and a parking space with this now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, but you're 18, no, you got the office. You got that nice office, right? And so it's like, if you think of any of these arts like that, then it doesn't sound so crazy to invest 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Because it would be like you're climbing that ladder. Like,
the only difference is that you're getting paid. You're getting paid for 18 years.
But it's that's the tough part.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many businessmen got divorced?
Right.
Because they were grinding to get that, whatever that position was, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
It's
there
just
is,
and just one is more classically accepted. Like, you can go talk to a family member or friend and they understand, like, I'm manager and I'm trying to be a assistant VP or something.
Right.
They understand that lingo.
It's traditional. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we bought this home and I've got this car.
Yeah.
Whereas with comedy, it's hard to be like, yeah, man, I just went from a feature spot on the road with this big guy to like, I'm doing my first headlining weekend at this club.
Yeah.
And like most of the tickets sold.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a huge accomplishment to sell out or close to sell out 4 shows as a headliner, but no one would really understand that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, it would be tacky to break down the money of like, I made this much money off this weekend.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, oh, just telling your little jokes, huh?
Well, I can do that. Yeah.
So I do wonder, it's like, is that the difference between, and like I said, I've got a lot to learn. I'm sure a veteran can educate me, but
me too. Yeah.
I do wonder, it's like, is that the only difference? Is like at 12, 13, 14, 15, they stayed positive, they kept at it.
It's got to be, especially like, if you're,
I feel like if you're in it that long,
you got to be good.
You have to be funny.
You have to be good.
It's not a question of funny.
Yeah, you got to be a good comic. So it's really just like, all right, you seem to have, I guess.
You don't stay an open micer for 15 years, do you?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're out. You're out.
If you are, then self-awareness is a big thing, bro. Like,
I mean, I'm sure there are some examples, but traditionally, it's like, I would imagine you drop out after whatever that time frame is for you. But if you have been working as a host, feature for 5-10 years, that has to be telling you, like, I'm getting consistent work. I'm funny enough.
Yeah.
But
I think the other side of that is nothing's gonna be handed to you either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes you might get lucky and someone sees you and like, all right, come with me on the road. But a lot closed mouths don't get fed. Like, sometimes it is, all right, I have become so good here. I'm such a great comic here. Does that mean you have to move to New York?
Yeah.
Does that mean you have to move to LA? Does that mean you have to? And if that's not the move for you because you're tied to your city, does it mean that I have to be more consistent about posting my clips on social media? Which means, am I able and willing to burn material? Which means, am I able and willing to write new material? And you really. I think those are the questions you have to start asking yourself, and that's how you have to start pushing yourself. In terms of I think you find comfort in, like, even 3 years in, I'm comfortable in Dallas. Like, I'm comfortable with these open mics. I can walk in. I don't feel bad when I get off the stage. If I bomb, I don't feel anything. Like, it's not a problem. But the few times I've gone to New York, I'm all right. This is a little bit different for me now. I don't know these people. And that change in environment really changed how I performed. So, it's still finding ways to push yourself at year 13, at year 15. And if you haven't, then maybe that's why you're at maybe it could have been year 8, year 7, if you push yourself a little bit sooner to kind of consistently just always be uncomfortable, always be a little bit uncomfortable.
Maybe that's the key, right? That's a way I haven't thought about it yet, is that's where the growth comes from, is being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, you can get really good, and even I mean, a lot of people. I don't know, a lot of people. Some people might have the same set, for however long, for years, which is great. But then, like, okay, maybe the thing is, burn it, use it, put it all on social media, and then go create your new 60 and see what happens. Just see what that new energy can do for you as a comic on stage.
We were talking before we turned these mics on about just me and like some of my goals, and how a lot of what I have to work on within our scene and with comics and artists in general is building trust. Yeah. That, like, if you do work with me, it's worth your time, right? Yeah. And that's anybody. You got to build that foundation. And so after Lawrence's recording, I've been fortunate that a few people have reached out wanting to work. And I'm all for it, right? And but with me, it's like, I'm not going for volume. Yeah. I want to work with you because we're a good fit. And you and me see eye to eye. Like, when Lawrence and I were talking, it was like, I think we have almost the exact same vision of what this should be. Yeah. And I think that's why we're going to work well together, right? Yeah. And that was kind of one of the things I proposed to a few people that weren't ready to hear it. It was, what I like currently could change. I like, if you're ready to record, whatever that may be for you, 20 minutes, an hour, I don't know, talk to me, right? I just want to see kind of like a theme. Mm-hmm. Like, why did you want to group this material together? Mm-hmm. Why do you feel it's important that these things are together, and what to you makes it complete, right? Like, if you can give me those reasons, I'm not like approving or disapproving. It just helps me kind of wrap my mind around, like, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of this for you to record it? Because it's obviously special, the material, and then that's the next thing is like, are you ready to really stop telling it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you done with this?
Do you feel it's complete? Because if you don't feel it's complete, maybe it's not time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you feel like it's done, and that's some of the conversations Lawrence and I had. He's like, not only does the material feel done to me, but he's like, it just feels like a chapter of my life that almost doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And he's like, and I need to move on from this if I'm ever going to do other things with comedy.
Yeah.
And, it's like, we're not famous. So, if he pulls out a joke here and there at somewhere where these people haven't seen it, it's not a big deal. But
he has it in case he needs it.
Yeah, but it's like, please don't do this same 45 minutes
it was cool
all the time.
I did the 325 with him at Hyenas, and it was fun to watch because he was doing new material.
I heard he's working.
I was like, this is so cool to watch, someone who just, put together a really cool project, put all his shit, maybe not all of his shit, but, a lot of his stuff out there. And here he is.
Well, that's what we talked about. He's at that 10-year mark. And I think maybe that's what collectively as a group in this scene we could kind of start pushing people towards, is like, don't rush anything. Make sure it's ready and you're happy. But like, I'm trying to think, there's a couple people. I know like Mikey B has something coming out soon.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and he seems like, I haven't seen any of it yet, but he seems like he knows when he's ready for that material to be gone, and that like he's going to take it seriously and put out something that's good, right? And so it makes me excited to see people in our scene starting to get willing to burn stuff, and say like, I'm done with that.
It's tough
because I think that might be the difference between us and like a New York scene, is that when you think of the heavy hitters from those scenes, I mean, we're talking about the pros.
Yeah,
they can turn over an hour, and some of them in a year. Yeah, and I mean that's so much talent. And I'm not saying it's easy. But I think if we had our top dogs around here working towards goals of that, of like, I'm capable, because we know they're funny enough. Yeah. When I speak of like the veterans in this scene, it is not a question of their abilities. They are funny enough, but I'm not sure that they've convinced themselves that they're capable of writing like that.
Right.
And so I'm hoping like maybe some of us can be like their cheerleaders of like, you can write.
Necessary.
You can write 45 minutes this year if you wanted to. Yeah. You are 100% capable of being that funny.
Why not?
Yeah. I think just traditionally around here, it hasn't felt like an option. Yeah. And so that's why I like the idea of recording more. It's like, if you're ready to burn it, I want to be that person to tell you, like, let's burn it.
Yeah.
Let's record it. Let's make it the best we can within our abilities. Yeah. I'm not Netflix. Let's have some realistic expectations. Yeah. But I think we can do something good, and then you can get ready to take a step higher than this. I told Lawrence, I was like, hopefully this is the worst thing you and I ever do.
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't that be great?
It should be.
It's like, and we're happy with it. We like it. But it's like, we should look back in 10 years and go, wow. Like when you see an old basketball game
like,
and HD wasn't invented yet, and you're like, it's so fuzzy. I can't even see the numbers. Like, it should feel like that when we look back on it. But you should at least go like, yeah, but it was perfect when we did it. We really were happy with it. Yeah. And so
such a good point.
I guess that's the goal, is just to make sure, like, if you love it, then it's time.
Yeah.
And then pull that security blanket away, like get ready.
Right. It is a security blanket. It's like, you get comfortable with the material. You get comfortable. It feels nice to be comfortable. Yeah. It feels so good.
I know this stuff kills, man.
Yeah.
They laugh every time.
And the hardest thing to do is like, all right, it's out of my hands now. But it can be rewarding if you do it the right way. Yeah.
Well, all that being said, what do you think your biggest goals are right now? What is it that you're wanting to achieve over, kind of a short span?
Yeah. It's weird. My goal this year was to perform in New York, which I was able to do. I was able to get a show in New York.
Way to go, man.
And now that our baby's coming at the end of August, I don't know. Like I've been telling people
around the corner.
I'm indefinitely out. I don't know when I'll be back. But it would be nice to be able to start getting feature spots at clubs. I know it's still probably a little bit too early for me, but it would be nice to just have that validation and be like, okay, he's capable of doing 30. Let's see if he wants to do 20 for this guy when he comes into town. That would be nice to get into the clubs a little bit more.
I feel like I've seen you do 15 a couple times.
Yeah, I've gotten a few opportunities.
I think you're capable of doing 20, right?
I've gotten those opportunities before every now and then. And
you seem like you take it seriously enough to go, I've got to bring a strong 20, you know, and I got to do it. So
yeah,
I think that seems reasonable, man.
I think it is. I think I just want the opportunity. I just want more stage. Like if there's a way that I can get a full weekend at a club, I would love for that, you know?
I bet what's going to happen, like this was our first child, right? So your world just, you know, it changes, right? And it's like, I'm looking at you now, remembering me then.
Yeah, yeah. What do you see?
Well, just like everybody's giving you advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it doesn't matter because you're just going to experience it however you experience it, right?
Yeah.
But I do think what'll happen is you'll take the appropriate time off, right? You'll have your like paternity leave and you'll bond with your baby and your wife and do all the stuff you need to do. But it's going to kick in that gear of like, this little thing depends on me.
Yeah.
You know, boy or girl, do you know yet? Are you talking about girl? This little girl depends on daddy, right?
Yeah.
We got to get, and I think you'll kick in a gear that you didn't know you had of, you know, like you'll feel that new responsibility.
Right.
And you'll tell yourself, you know, like, and it's not like a threat to yourself. You'll just be like, we're going to make something of this.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, you know, because like, I don't want to waste time. Like every moment I'm away doing this now and not taking it seriously is time I could have spent with my daughter, you know?
Such a good point. Yeah.
It's like right now, it's like, I'm happy we're doing the podcast, but it's a bummer if you sit down with somebody who's kind of not ready to do a podcast because it's like, man, I could have put my son to bed tonight.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, could you bring 100?
Yeah.
And so I feel like then if I'm going to do something now, it's like, let's go 100% because I skipped that time. Let's make this worth it, you know?
Yeah.
That way, hopefully it works out the way you want to. And then when you're talking to your son about or daughter about the sacrifices you made, it all adds up, right?
Yeah.
Rather than like, I did like 6 open mics. Your mom was pissed. Like,
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's
But
such
you
a
know,
good point.
but you, I mean, actually funny enough, the only baby advice I got that made a ton of sense was Ralph Barbosa came on the podcast before he blew up, and he already had a kid at that time when my wife was pregnant. And so he was looking at me like I'm talking right now, you know. And it's funny because he's so much younger than me, you know, but he's a more experienced dad. And he was like, you know, everybody kept giving me the cliche advice of like, you know, sleep when the baby sleeps, like that stuff where it's like, people have been saying this for like 60 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what am I supposed to do? You know, like do the dishes when the baby does the dishes and like do the laundry when the baby, you know? And he's like, just all that advice doesn't work.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you know what I'll leave you with? The only advice that I got that has actually paid off was someone told us they're like, when your parents, especially new parents, you take pictures of the baby all the time, right? And they're like, make sure you include yourself in these pictures.
Yeah.
You and your wife take pictures of like the 3 of you.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing we heard that we've still been conscious of where it's like, oh, we got to get on.
Keep the memories. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't, you know, your kid's going to want you in the picture, but you're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
That was the only advice we got from someone that wasn't like, you know, don't go to bed angry.
But that is something that you can take actionable. Like, it's like, oh, all right, let's remember to do this. Let's do this. Like it's a
and it's not like crazy. Like, make sure you get sleep. Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course. I'm trying to do that right now. You know.
Yeah. It'll be exciting, man. It'll be exciting to talk to you. You know, months from now.
Yeah. It's gonna be. You're gonna get a different version of me.
Yeah, I mean, it changes, but it's good. It's a good change.
Yeah,
like, it's kind of how we talked. Like before you got married, it's like you were fine, but it's like most people, if they're doing marriage the right way, it's like you're kind of a better person now.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like you've grown.
Yeah,
and so you're gonna have another similar growth. And I mean, as long as the only people who don't get that are the ones who are like shouldn't be married and having kids.
Right.
Like,
Something a little bit more toxic is happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. I think you'll take the appropriate break from comedy, and then you'll come back with like this new.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too.
It'll be cool.
I'm excited for the time outside of the house to matter. Even like, you know, we were talking about go to the mics a little bit more prepared, go to the show a little bit more every minute. If I'm doing 25 minutes, I'm gonna make sure I get the fucking 25 minutes and make sure every minute counts. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
it'll be good, man. Well. It's been fun chatting with you, dude. Best of luck with the baby on the way and everything.
I appreciate you, Travis.
It's exciting, man. Like it's I don't know how you get with it, but it's easy to get freaked out about that stuff. But just remember, like that type of growth. I mean, that's fun. Like if you're not doing those things, you're not really living life.
That's part of the experience.
Yeah, man.
That's part of the experience.
Yeah, you don't want to look back and I'm not going to be insulting towards other people. Never mind. Well, for now, it sounds like you're about to take a break for this baby, but where do you like people to find you the most on social media?
You can follow me at Nimesh Comedy on Instagram.
All right, you got it. Anything else you want to get out there, man?
No, that's about it. I got a show on Thursday at Habibi Hookah Lounge. I'm
gonna get this out by Thursday, just for that.
All right.
Yeah, I might get it out tomorrow just so it's on there.
Yeah, dude.
All right, dude. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.